Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the From the Booth podcast. My name is Mike, and I appreciate you guys coming back and listening to the 11th episode of this podcast. Um, Really quick, big shout out to all of you guys. You guys have been killing it. We're up to 41 subscribers right now on YouTube. The last probably 5 or 6 videos in succession have done really, really well in comparison to what they had normally done. You guys are awesome. So for the YouTube gang, big shout out to you. Love you all. Mwah. Kisses. For the podcast gang, I really appreciate you guys as well. We're not doing as good on podcast platforms, but we're building our way up. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, so we're kind of climbing our way up. But really appreciate all of you guys for all the support. Love you. And I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. So that's a great reminder, if you haven't, to subscribe already. But let's go ahead and get right into it. We have a lot of things to cover today. We're going to talk about Justin Fields and the Bears. We're going to do our Monday mock draft, our weekly rendition. We're also going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins possibly maybe getting traded. We're going to talk the NFL Combine. And then we do have a sad story to talk about in the form of Byron Jones today. But without further ado, let's get right into the show. All right, guys. So a report has come out recently that the Bears are going to stick with Justin Fields and that they are likely to trade the number 1 overall pick. To be completely honest with you, I'm going to call myself a de facto Bears fan because I live here and I watch every single Bears game with my mom, and I've done that for 10 years. That is what I really wanted to happen. And that's what I think is best for the Bears organization, is to keep Justin Fields and to trade that number 1 overall pick and get a boatload of other assets. Now, my hope is that they trade within the top 5. So you could probably even get an extra first, but so that you're able to still get a really, really great player, maybe a Will Anderson, maybe a Jalen Carter, but I hope that's what the Bears do, and we'll kind of see that in my mock draft. Maybe this is a little reference to later in the episode, but so the Bears are going to stick with Justin Fields, and they are going to trade the number 1 overall pick according to this report. Here's what I think. I think Justin Fields is actually a really good quarterback. But I think any quarterback is going to have a lot of trouble when you don't surround them with good offensive line, good receivers. Bears running backs were pretty good. But I think Fields deserves the chance to see what he can do surrounded by quality weapons, quality offensive line. And we haven't seen that throughout his career so far. So the Bears look like they're going to give him that option. I did think that we kind of already knew that the Bears were going to stick with Fields. They traded for Chase Claypool. They gave up high draft position for Chase Claypool to try to get Fields a receiver. So I don't really think you do that and then not want to keep Fields. To me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But not that the Bears always make sense, but to me that wouldn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense, period, to give up that high of a pick. But to me, again, that means that they are invested in Fields and they want to surround him with quality players. So there's kind of that. And then, looking towards Justin Fields' future in Chicago, he's got a few more years where he's pretty cheap, and then the Bears are going to have to pay him. So I think that the Bears are positioning themselves to be able to make a decision on Fields, whether that's to pay him or whether that's to let him not get that big extension that a lot of quarterbacks are going to be getting, like Herbert and Burrow and Hurts, all of those guys, and probably Daniel Jones as well, are going to be getting in the near future. So I like this move for the Bears. I think it's the best thing that they could do. I think you need to make Justin Fields feel like he's the guy. And hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully the Bears can give him some receivers, give him some offensive line. I think the best case scenario, I would go defense if you get in the top, still 4 or 5 if you trade that pick. But if you're in the top 10 and Paris Johnson's still there, I mean, that wouldn't be a bad move. That's the same school, There's offensive lineman, the guy from Northwestern. I wouldn't mind. There's a lot of dudes, if you're the Bears, that you could get for Justin Fields. Maybe they even get in the second. Maybe they even trade with a team like Seattle who has 2 first-round picks. Maybe you go, like I said, edge rusher and then wide receiver at 20, or you go tackle and receiver, or whatever. Either way, the Bears need to do whatever they can to make Justin Fields' life easier and better, even just for their own sake, so they have a better evaluation of, is he the guy? How much do we pay him? because it's just so hard to evaluate when you're rocking with Sam Mustipher at center. And if you're a Bears fan, you know what I'm talking about, because Sam Mustipher is probably the worst fucking player I've ever seen in my life. So, yeah, good for the Bears, but introing that into our mock draft, guys. All right, we're back again on the PFF mock draft simulator. Again, I'm going to be controlling all 32 teams who have a pick in this round, which really isn't all 32. It's probably more in like the 26, 27 range, but who cares? Going through the first round, like we said, let's go ahead and enter the draft. So, as we've previously just discussed in our last topic, the Bears are going to be keeping Justin Fields, which was the first thing I did in the last mock draft. I actually traded Justin Fields. So we're not going to do that in this round because of the report, but we are still going to trade back if you're the Bears. All right, so as I've said, now being that the Bears aren't going to take quarterback, their number one pick becomes a little bit less valuable because teams kind of know. If you're the Texans, you kind of know you still have your pick at quarterback if the Bears don't trade. Now, the Bears can trade so that the Colts, the Seahawks, the Raiders, the Texans, whoever can leapfrog any possible team and try to go get their guy. All right. So for the Bears, who are we thinking about trading them? I think the Colts make a lot of sense here. Like if you had to hold me at gunpoint and ask me what team the Bears would trade the number one overall pick to, and my life depended on it, I would say the Colts. And then, of course, the Raiders would do it and you'd shoot me and I'd die. But whatever. I would say the Colts. I wouldn't rule out the Seahawks. I wouldn't even rule out the Lions. But for argument's sake, I'm just going to say the Colts. Because the Colts, to me, right, I don't know. It's very tricky because if you're the Texans, right, I just don't know what validates going up a pick with the Bears. The Cardinals maybe take Jalen Carter, maybe go up and take Jalen Carter, but I think they think that they can get him at 3, and then the Colts at 4. To me, that just makes so much sense. To me, it just makes so much sense to trade with the Colts at 4. So I'm gonna take. If I am the Bears, I'm gonna take pick 1. I'm gonna go to the Colts at pick 4. Obviously, the Bears getting pick 4. They're gonna get pick 35 as well. They're gonna get in next year's first, and then. You gotta understand, guys, the number one overall pick is a hot commodity. So giving up 2 firsts, a second, and maybe from the Bears I'll throw in like a 5. I think that is quality compensation if you're the Bears and if you're the Colts. So we're gonna go ahead and make this trade, and then we are going to start our mock draft, you guys. Let's go ahead. If you're the Indianapolis Colts, obviously you're going quarterback here, right? You're gonna go get your guy, but who do you get? That is the big question. That is the big question that is on everybody's hand. The Texans probably are going to want to take a quarterback as well at number 2. But now the Colts have their pick. Now Jim Irsay has come out and specifically talked about Bryce Young out of Alabama. I had a comment on my last mock draft that the Texans, that I keep screwing over the Texans and keep doing worst case scenario. I'm sorry, I promise you there is a mock draft coming that the Texans take Bryce Young. But for right now, with the Bears trading the number 1 overall pick, somebody's taking a quarterback. And that quarterback should, could, and probably be Bryce Young. So, Bryce Young, congratulations. You are an Indianapolis Colt. In the same way that they took Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck to revitalize and to shift their franchise into a new era, that's the same way that Bryce Young is going to be. That's what their hope is anyway for Bryce Young. For the Texans, sitting at pick number 2, like I said, quarterback number 1 has been off the board. What do? I think they go defense. I keep going back and forth on quarterback defense. But I think Will Anderson, I've watched more of his tape this week. Will Anderson is just too good. I think he has DeMeco Ryans absolutely foaming at the mouth. I'm going to go with Will Anderson going to the Houston Texans. DeMeco Ryans gets his guy, gets his J.J. Watt, if you will, who he both played with and now is going to coach the franchise with J.J. Watt. Sitting at number 3, Arizona Cardinals. I think that if you're sitting at number 3 right here, my boy Jalen Carter's still on the board. You got to take him, right? Jonathan Gannon, like I've said, loves his defensive lineman, loves the front seven. Gonna want to take Jalen Carter. Boom, number 3. So now if you're the Bears, you're in a pretty interesting spot, okay? What you could do is you could do 2 things. You could kind of overdraft a guy. You can maybe take a Devin Witherspoon top 4, although I'm not normally a fan of taking corners top 5 unless it's like on rare exception like Sauce last year, right? You could overdraft a player. You could trade back with another team who wants to take a quarterback here. And I think the latter is probably the better option here. So, from the Bears, looking right now, Seattle, they're not desperate for a quarterback. Detroit's not desperate for a quarterback. Vegas probably is. Atlanta probably is. And Carolina probably is. So I'm really looking in this 7, 8, 9 range right here for the Bears to trade back on. Again, you'd still have a top 10 pick. You could accumulate many more assets. And I think if you're the Bears and if you're Ryan Poles specifically, you want as many chances and as many players for this team as you possibly can. So I'm going to pick a trade between the Raiders, the Falcons, and the Panthers. And I'm actually going to go with another rumor that's been circulating this offseason. I am going to go ahead and take the Bears and go down to the teams interested in pick 4. It says the Falcons are interested. Okay. I'm going to go with the Raiders because I control the fucking draft and I can do whatever the fuck I want. All right. So the Bears are going to give pick 4. The Raiders are going to get the Bears are going to get pick 7, excuse me. The Bears are going to get pick 4. And in order to move up 3 spots, the Raiders are going to end up giving us Henry Ruggs. That's Hunter Renfrow. Give the Bears a good little option, good little receiver, especially on like a 3rd down. Maybe the Bears can throw in, pick like 134 or 135 or 102. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let the Raiders move up 3 spots and give us Hunter Renfrow for pick 4. I'm going to force this trade. Don't give a fuck. It's my mock draft. All right. Now the Raiders sit at number 4. They want a receiver. They want a quarterback. So I think you have 2 guys right at the top of the board right here, Will Levis and CJ Stroud. I've been mocking CJ Stroud a lot to the Raiders. But I think that he more fits the mold of what Josh McDaniels wants. You got to understand, Josh McDaniels spent his whole career in New England pretty much. He wants an accurate quarterback. He wants one that's going to make good reads, that's going to make the right decisions. And if we're talking on just those few attributes, CJ Stroud is miles better than Will Levis. Now, Will Levis is probably more physically gifted, probably has a bit of a stronger arm, whatever. But I think if you're Josh McDaniels, you kind of value that accuracy, that ball placement, that decision making. I like CJ Stroud going to the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, for the Seahawks, I'm going to be real. I have no idea what the fuck the Seahawks are going to do. I am a Seahawks fan. They are my favorite team. I follow them religiously, and I have no fucking clue what they're doing. And that just speaks to John Schneider and Pete Carroll, the way that they kind of operate themselves and the way that they conduct their draft process. So at number 5, I don't think the Seahawks like Will Levis enough, although there was a report that in the 2017 draft they loved Mahomes. In the 2018 draft they loved Josh Allen. So maybe they have a thing for these uber talented project quarterbacks. Will Levis definitely fits that mold. But if I'm the Seahawks right here, I think the quote unquote safe pick is to go with Tyree Wilson, the edge from Texas Tech. Get you an edge rusher to pair with Darrell Taylor. All right, now for number 6, the Detroit Lions. I would not be surprised if they went with Will Levis. I think that they know that Jared Goff is not the long-term answer at quarterback, but for kind of like Seattle. But for now, they're fine, right? They're fine for now. So that leaves a few guys that I think that they can go with. Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback from Illinois, who I've mocked to the Lions, I think, in both of my last mock drafts, or Brian Branch. And honestly, I'm gonna have kind of a switch it up. I'm not gonna do the same mock draft every fucking time. I like Brian Branch going to Detroit. Pair him with Kelvin Joseph. Pair him with that young defense. Get some playmakers in the back. And I think that you guys, in terms of Lions, they have a very exciting team on their hands coming up. All right, back to the Bears. Pick number 7. Now I think that they are finally done trading back. Now, again, like I've said, their goal is going to be to get Justin Fields weapons, make his life as easy as possible. And doing so, Quentin Johnson to me seems like the obvious answer right here. And I think that, his big body, he's got a big catch radius. I think he's a little rough around the edges, but Quentin Johnson, if they can coach him up and do everything, he does seem like a good fit for the Bears. Unfortunately, I did see a comparison this week from him and Kevin White, which was an old Bears draft pick who I remember. I was so excited about Kevin White. Quick little story time before we get to the Falcons pick. So the Bears picked Kevin White, and I believe it was 2013. Don't quote me. 2013, right? That following, so then the training camp and the following, off season, whatever. Just a few months later, I was at Bears training camp. I think I went 6 or 7 times, and I don't live that close to Bears training camp, so being there that many times was great. And I actually got to meet Kevin White, and I saw him, doing practice drills, and my 10-year-old brain was blown. I thought this guy was going to be the next Randy Moss. I was so convinced that he was going to be one of the best receivers in the league. I was pounding the table. I was telling all my friends, Kevin White, Kevin White, Kevin White, Kevin White. And he wore number 13. That's my birthday is October 13th, so he wore number 13. So it was written in the stars that Kevin White was going to be the best, and it didn't happen. Unfortunately, he never did anything. So whatever. Hopefully that's not the case with Quentin Johnson. But let's go to the Atlanta Falcons at pick number 8. Now you're rocking. You need a quarterback. There's one right here, Will Levis. I think it seems like a pretty obvious choice to me. Will Levis is probably the best quarterback left in terms of, at least right now, the best quarterback left. So yeah. All right, let's go to the Panthers at number 9. Also going to take a quarterback. Frank Reich wants his guy. And again, I've mocked him there before, but I think Anthony Richardson is a great fit for Carolina. Having the coach that can coach him up, having, maybe his flaws hidden and his strengths highlighted is going to be the best thing for him. I love Anthony Richardson to the Panthers. I don't know how many times I got to say it. One thing I don't love, and one thing that I have been continually shat on for, is the Philadelphia Eagles. You guys have hated my Bijan Robinson pick, and I can attest that it was probably a bit aggressive on my end, and it is probably not worthwhile to take a running back top 10. And you guys let me know that, so I appreciate your comments. So we're not gonna go with Bijan Robinson this time around for the Philadelphia Eagles. What I will say, I do like Witherspoon here at number 6. Here's why: Bradbury's a free agent. Darius Slay's getting up there in age, and I don't think you can ever have enough good corners. Most teams in this league who you would consider to have good corners are one injury or one freak play away from a really bad guy starting at corner. That was just awful verbiage. A below average, not NFL quality corner getting significant playing time. They're just one injury away, and that's the teams that have good corners. If you don't have good corners, then you're already stuck. So for the Eagles, I think they go up, they get a great player in Witherspoon to solidify their defensive backfield. All right, for pick 11, the Titans, it says they need receivers, tackles, edge. I love Paris Johnson. I think this works really well, especially that they just released Taylor Lewan to save cap. Get a guy who can be your tackle for years. Tackle's one of those positions where it's like, man, you really don't want to worry about off tackle. You just want to have that solidified and done for years. Titans get their left tackle with Paris Johnson. For the Texans, all right, so early in the draft they went edge rusher with Will Anderson, so I'm guessing they're going to probably want to go offense here. Last mock draft, I think I had them taking Quentin Johnson for receiver. This is a spot, if you're the Texans, where I can definitely see them trading up to go get a quarterback. So if they want to take the 12 and package it with somebody else and move up to 7, 8, 9, I could see that happening for sure. But let's look at the Texans and what we got. We got Christian Gonzalez against Van Ness. We got a lot of offensive and defensive linemen, and that's great and dandy. But they're very set at tackle. I don't think that they need another tackle. I think their tackles are probably the strength of their team, if we're being honest. They just took an edge rusher. They took a corner 3rd overall last year. So if I'm the Texans, you kind of in a, what do you do? If they took a pick here, my guess would be Jordan Addison, because my guess is that they're going to trade Brandon Cooks. And obviously, whoever their quarterback is next season, they're going to want to take that. They're going to want to surround that quarterback with weapons. So I think 12 is a bit high, so if I'm the Texans, I'm going to trade down. Maybe trade with the Commanders. I could see the Commanders wanting to trade. Um, Maybe we take the 12, we take it for 16. Maybe we get an extra second. And then maybe we add a 138. Yeah, I think that's fine. So the Texans get an extra second round pick, and they give up would that be like a fourth, fifth, something like that. All right, let's go ahead and make that trade. Commanders move up. Well, who are the Commanders going to take? They're going to take Christian Gonzalez, the corner from Oregon. I think they need corners, and I think that he's a very good talent right there. For the New York Jets, in this reality, we are pretending that the New York Jets have signed Derek Carr, so they're not interested in trading Green Bay. They're not interested in trading for Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay. But if you're the Jets, again, tackle and linebacker right here, they're going to want to protect Derek Carr. Peter Skoronski, they're going to want to go ahead and get him solidified, and they don't want him getting banged up like their other quarterbacks have. So they're going to take the tackle from Northwestern. For the Patriots, they need edge rushers. There's a guy available, Lucas Van Ness. They're going to go ahead and go with him. He feels, I've said this before, he feels like a Patriot to me. And so, yeah. So I think Lucas Van Ness is a good fit in New England. Green Bay Packers, this was another team that my previous picks have gotten shat on for. I've picked Brian Bresee, I think, twice to pick Green Bay. And you guys have let me know that that is not the way to go, which I appreciate the comments. You guys have told me that DN, not D-line, is the need. So thank you guys for that. But they do need a wide receiver still. And Jordan Addison's on the board. I think that they go with Jordan Addison, pair him with Christian Watson, and whoever the fuck's that quarterback for Green Bay next year, they will have two very talented weapons to kind of play around with. All right, so now for the Texans, quarterback, center, and defensive line. To me, you want to get your quarterback next year, right? So if the Texans suck dicking balls in 2023, boom, you got Caleb Williams next year. It's not that hard. So if I'm the Texans right here, I might be looking at receiver. I might be looking at one Jackson Smith and Jigba. I really like him. You could also go the Myles Murphy route and just get a insane pass rushing duo. You can go Brian Bresee up the middle. But I'm going to go with Brian Bresee. I'm going to go with Brian Bresee. It's a better quality pick. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is a little bit of a reach at 16, so I don't know if I'd go there. All right. The Pittsburgh Steelers tackle, linebacker, and corner. All right, I think Broderick Jones right here is the obvious pick. You want to give Kenny Pickett a not god awful offensive line, and a tackle right here is at the board. Good value at pick 17. I'm gonna go with Broderick Jones for the Pittsburgh Steelers. For the Detroit Lions, defensive line, linebacker and corner. You got him. I like Myles Murphy here, right? I really do. But as some of you commented, you got the other rookie from last year. I believe his last name is Houston, who was also really good. So you think he's going to get more playing time. Edge rusher with Aiden Hutchinson, so that's fine. I like Kalijah Kancey from Pittsburgh, and I think that would probably be a really good matchup in Detroit. So I'm going to go ahead and mock him to the Lions, beefing up their defensive line. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they kind of fucking need everything at this point. Quarterback, tight end, guard, center, defensive line. The only thing they probably don't need is corners, which is really all I could think of. But let's go ahead and take somebody here for the Buccaneers, obviously. The best, I guess it's really hard because there's not any good quarterbacks left. Tight ends, I mean, I guess you can go with Michael Mayer. Where's Michael Mayer at? Yeah, you go Michael Mayer, but I think that's kind of a reach at 19. You can go, let's go guard. I missed it. Yeah, interior offensive line, let's go that. It's Osiris Torrance, you can go. Possibly. He's the best guard in this draft. I don't think there's much debate on that. But are you really going to spend a top 20 pick on a guard when you have so many other needs? We can also try, like, center. I mean, John Michael Schmitz, I like him out of Minnesota, but to me, that's just hard. So, to me, I'm gonna unselect O-line and tight end. I'm just going to go with defensive line on an edge and just see kind of what we're rocking with. I think the best pick here is Miles Murphy. I think Joe Tryon really hasn't been what he's set out to be yet, and so I think Miles Murphy's, you got to go best player available. You got to go position of need. I like that for the Buccaneers. For the Seahawks, my favorite pick, and I am praying that this happens, Joey Porter Jr. to Seattle. Please pair him with Tariq Woolen. Please pair him with that Pete Carroll defensive backfield mastermind that he has. I absolutely love that. So I'm going to say that. I might go with a little bit of a controversial pick here. So I was saying in the last two drafts that I think the Chargers need wide receiver, and more specifically, I think they need speed at wide receiver. And I picked Zay Flowers, and I don't necessarily disagree with my train of thought there, but I'm gonna go. I have another guy in mind right here, Jalen Hyatt. Watch out for Jalen Hyatt. If Jalen Hyatt runs a fast, which we'll talk about, if he runs a fast time in this mock draft, his stock is going to. He is going to explode up. I'm not going to take him at 21 when he's currently projected 68. I'm not that crazy. But what I will say is I would watch out for Jalen Hyatt at 21 right here if he runs a fast time. Again, they need receiver. They got two receivers right here on the board. I think I don't want to be boring and say Zay Flowers every time, but I am going to go with Zay Flowers. I think he just fits a little bit better. And I will go with JSN again for the Ravens. It's just really simple. Two teams that need receivers in the 20s. That's pretty much where you should pick receivers. I feel like they need receivers. Two guys are still available. I don't think it's very hard. The Vikings, they need defense, and Deonte Banks right here at corner is the guy for me. He fits what the Vikings are trying to do. He's from Maryland, which the last time they drafted a guy from Maryland in the first round, well, not in the first round, but the last time the guy drafted from Maryland, I believe it was Stephon Diggs. How'd that work out? So corner for Vikings, big need. Let's go on to the Jaguars, who need guard, center, and DB. I would not be surprised with O'Cyrus Torrence here, keeping it in Florida. I don't think that there's a good enough center to take at 24. But DBs, you might got some options here. Okay. But I think, O'Cyrus Torrence is probably the move here at 24. Look at the New York Giants. Now, hear me out. All right? Hear me out. If the Giants lose Saquon Barkley in free agency, they're going to go with Bijan Robinson. Because let's pretend for a second that they lose Saquon in free agency. That's because they signed Daniel Jones. Well, we need Daniel Jones to have some weapons. Obviously, when Saquon was there, he was running that offense at times. I like Bijan Robinson, assuming that the Giants lose Saquon Barkley. And this is going to be taken out of context. If the Giants lose Saquon Barkley, they're going Bijan Robinson at 25. Which, for those of you who got mad at me last time for taking Bijan Robinson at 10, I can see because top 10 is pretty high. But I don't think you should just not take running backs in the first round. I think late first round, but you can still take running backs past 20, I think. For the Dallas Cowboys, they need receivers, defensive line, and linebackers. No really good receivers left, I don't think. I do think they need tight ends, so I do like Michael Mayer here. I do think that they would need some defensive linemen, but again, I'm not seeing like any really great defense. Mazzie Smith at 26 is a reach. So I am gonna go ahead and go with. Man, this is tough. It's tough. All right, who we got at receivers still? Is there any good receivers left? Nathaniel Dell. He's still. Okay. I think they go best player available, and you might even just take Andre Carter from the edge from Army, because why the fuck not? The Bills, guard, center, defensive back. I like Antonio Johnson to the Bills. I've said it once, and I've said it again. I really like the fit of Antonio Johnson to the Bills. The Saints at 29. This just feels like Tanner McKee to me, dude. I don't know. I just have a feeling that Tanner McKee's a Saint, and I know I keep repeating that, but he just feels like a Saint to me. So, okay. I was looking at the Saints, and I thought it was their pick. I missed the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals are not taking Tanner McKee. So we're going to pretend that that pick is the Saints pick, and the Bengals are going to take tackle, defensive line, corner. They're going to go with Anton Harrison. So just flip the Bengals and the Saints for me really quick. My brain was just looking ahead a little bit. All right, the Eagles at number 30. They need receivers, guards, and centers. Okay, so let's just look. We don't see receiver, guard, center. Receiver, guard, center. I'd have to scroll down a little bit. Receiver, guard, center. Nathaniel Dell at 37. I don't know about that. Yeah, the good receivers have kind of already gone. Unfortunately, the best guard. Let's see who the best guard is. I'll put guard Steve Avila, and then center. Where did I miss? Oh yeah, it's just interior line. Okay, so I mean, it could go Steve Avila. They could go Luke Weipler. I don't know. I think if they do take a pick here, it could be receiver, Nathaniel Dell, possibly. And then if we're looking at, yeah, I'd probably have to be Nathaniel Dell. So I'll go that with them. And then the Chiefs also want receiver and defensive line. I think Nolan Smith works very well for the Chiefs, assuming they lose maybe Frank Clark, or maybe they lose, Chris Jones down the line. They would need some defensive linemen. All right, what do you guys think of my mock draft? Let me know down below. I loved hearing your opinions on the last mock draft, and I can't wait to read what you guys think about this one. Please don't forget that Anton Harrison and Tanner McKee are flipped accidentally. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to the next segment of this episode. All right, let's go ahead and get into our next topic of discussion. I probably could have included this in the mock draft, but I did kind of want to make it its own thing because I really don't know how it's going to go, but I have a few ideas. So the rumor going around the streets, aka NFL Twitter, is that the Cardinals are going to be trading Deandre Hopkins. He said that he's wanted out. Obviously, Kyler's going to miss significant time next year with the ACL injury. They just fired their coach, Cliff Kingsbury. So Deandre Hopkins is likely out of Arizona. So where does that lead? Where does that come in terms of what does he get traded for? Who does he get traded to? Everything like that. So the reason that I didn't have his trade a part of that mock draft is because I don't think the DeAndre Hopkins trade affects the first round at all. And if it does, it would be pick 31 with the Chiefs, because that is the absolute highest I think he would go for, is like a late first. I really don't think he's going to get a late first. I think that he's probably worth a second and a fourth, a second and a fifth, maybe. But I don't think that he's going to get anything in the first round. But here's what I'm going to say. I think that there are a few teams that would really be a good fit for DeAndre Hopkins. I just alluded to it, but I think the Chiefs would be a great fit. Pairing DeAndre Hopkins with Patrick Mahomes would be fantastic. The Chiefs, they don't have all the money in the world, but they're pretty cap flexible, so they could make it work. And then obviously they are in Super Bowl contention, being that they just won one. So any help for their weakest position would be definitely wanted. DeAndre Hopkins even tweeted during the Super Bowl that boy Patrick Mahomes is different. So obviously he wants to go play with Patrick Mahomes. I think the Chiefs make a lot of sense here. Another team that I think makes a lot of sense, and speaking of the Chiefs, I don't think they'll give a pick 31. So then it would be a little bit harder to trade, but if they wanted to, they can make it happen, right? Another team that I think makes a lot of sense is the Packers. The Packers have a big need at wide receiver, and so I think that whoever's playing quarterback for them, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Kurt, whoever, I think whoever's playing quarterback for them is going to want good receivers, and that was their problem last year up until Christian Watson broke out. But like I said for corners earlier in this video, you can never have enough good wide receivers. So getting DeAndre Hopkins alongside of Christian Kirk, especially to help coach up the young guys, I think would be a great thing for the Packers organization. And so yeah, I think the Packers make a lot of sense. Another team that I think makes a lot of sense is the Baltimore Ravens. You want to make Lamar happy. You want to make your new offensive coordinator happy. You want to make your offense click, because if the Ravens have struggled with one thing during my lifetime, it's the receiver position. And so they have shown that they can't really draft a receiver, so why not trade for one? I think drafting a receiver would also help. I'm sorry, I think trading for DeAndre Hopkins would also help Rashad Bateman, maybe Devin Duvernay, help coach those guys up, get them a little better. Again, if nothing else, just take some attention away from them to allow Rashad Bateman to get those one-on-one scenarios and everything like that. So I think the Baltimore Ravens could make a lot of sense. Don't rule out the Chicago Bears as well. Like I've said, they're going to pull out all the stops to get Fields some weapons, get him some guys. I do think the Bears are a real rebuilding team, and he's a bit old, so I don't know kind of how much they want to value DeAndre Hopkins given his age. But I don't think that he would be a bad receiver. He definitely is an upgrade over whoever the fuck the Bears had last year. So I think the Bears would be another very interesting team. Really quick, who do you guys think DeAndre Hopkins is going to get traded to? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to hear your response. I want to hear your answers, rather. But I think one other team that kind of makes sense to me is probably the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones has always kind of gone out and made those sexy moves. The Cowboys, outside of CeeDee Lamb, kind of have a big need at receiver, I think. And, they were a team that they won a playoff game last year, So they're looking to take that next step. They're looking to further improve their team. And additionally, they're paying Dak all that money. And they want to make his life easy. They want to be proven right on their investment with him. So for the Cowboys, I won't rule it out. And I think that, especially with their division rival making it to the Super Bowl, they got to act, and they got to act fast. So that is kind of the DeAndre Hopkins situation going on right now, guys. Let me know what you think down below, and let's go ahead and head to our next segment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL draft is getting close, and the Combine is just a few days away. The Combine, for those of you who don't know, is basically the showcase event where players run, they jump, they throw, they catch, they do whatever in front of all the NFL scouts. It's located in Lucas Oil Stadium for the Colts Stadium. Everybody runs through the Combine. Everybody does their thing. They get all the numbers. And then for the next 2 months before the draft, we evaluate those numbers. We evaluate their athleticism score, everything like that. And then some players are going to rise. Some players are going to fall in the pre-draft rankings. So I kind of want to highlight a few players that you should watch for the Combine to see their stock either rise significantly or fall significantly, unfortunately. My first player is Bryce Young. Not necessarily his throwing, because he said he's going to save his throwing for his throw day. Not necessarily his 40 time, because his 40 time is not, his speed is not really indicative of his position. It's going to be his height. I'm very interested to see what Bryce Young officially weighs in as and height and is measured at for height, because height is a big. It's a big thing at quarterback. Teams do value height. As much as teams want to say that they don't, teams evaluate height. Is it an indicator of who's going to be a great quarterback? Not every time, but height does matter to a lot of teams. So Bryce Young's height could prevent him from being the first overall pick, which would be awful. But I guess that's just how it is in the NFL. So my guess is that he is listed at 5'9", probably 190. That's my guess. But we shall see how big Bryce Young is. If I was Bryce Young, I'd walk to the NFL Combine in heels. Just saying, it might make him some more $1 million. Another player and another measurement that I am very interested to see is Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver from Tennessee. I talked about him in my mock draft just a little bit ago. But I'm very interested to see what his 40 time is. Now, we've seen it time and time again, where receivers who are not valued as first-round picks in the pre-combine draft process run a ridiculous 40 time, and all of a sudden they're a first-round pick, they're a can't miss, they're a top 15, 20 guy. The best example of this is John Ross. John Ross was like a third-round pick before he ran a 4.22 40-yard dash, and then he went number 9 to the Bengals, a pick before Patrick Mahomes. That's not the only example. Henry Ruggs, same thing. Darius Hayward-Bay, same thing. Guys just get drafted way higher than they should because their 40 time is ridiculous. So if any guy is going to do that this year, it's going to be Jalen Hyatt, who's going to run a ridiculous 40 time, and then all of a sudden he's a top 20 pick. Like I said, when I was looking at the mock draft, he's currently ranked as like the number 68 prospect. if he runs a good 40 time, he's getting drafted way higher than 68. Teams love speed for wide receivers. So we shall see what happens with Jalen Hyatt. Hopefully, for his sake, he runs a fast time and climbs up the draft board. Another guy that I think could really increase his draft stock is Georgia tight end Darnell Washington. Right now, just from a quick Google search, he's listed at 6'7", 245. That's a big boy. So my two things with him is to see, is he 6'7", 245? Is that his official measurement? Is he 6'8"? Is he typically when your college measurements, you're not going to go lower. So he might be 6'6", 6'7", 245. My interesting thing to see is, how does he move? How does he glide? How does he jump? How does he run the 40? I want to see this guy's athleticism score, because if this guy is putting up freak athleticism numbers and he's 6'7", 275, oh, buddy, he's going in the first round 100%. Another guy I want to see the measurables for is Penn State cornerback Joey Porter. I want to see how fast he is. I want to see how long his arms are, especially if you're a coach like Pete Carroll. He always goes after long arm corners. That's just his thing. Richard Sherman with long arms. Tariq Woolen's got them long arms. If Joey Porter has long arms and runs fast, he might not be there at 20 for the Seahawks, and that'd be good for him. But unfortunately, that would not be good for the Seattle Seahawks. And the last guy, I think the guy that everybody is excited to watch in this combine is going to be Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida, the freak athlete himself. Whereas I said Bryce Young, maybe his height, his weight, his frame might prevent him from being the number one overall pick. If Anthony Richardson dazzled at the combine and at his pro day, he runs a good 40. If he shows he's accurate throwing, if he, maybe is an athletic freak, he could jump up to number one overall. And I say this, and some of you are going to think I'm crazy. It's happened. Zach Wilson, it happened, right? Cam Newton's going to be the first overall pick, but it's happened where quarterbacks have gone much higher than they should because of their combine, because of their pro day, everything like that. So Anthony Richardson has the opportunity to make himself a lot of money in this combine. Who are some guys that you are excited to see at the combine? Who are some players that you think could raise or lower their draft stock significantly? Let me know down below. I love reading guys' comments. And let's go ahead and head to the next segment. All right, guys. So speaking of the NFL combine, I do kind of want to bring attention to a bit of a sad story here, unfortunately. So as some of you guys have seen, Byron Jones this week has come out on Twitter and called out the NFL's medical practices. He's tweeted, don't take the pills, don't take the injections. He encouraged players to seek a private doctor if they have injuries. He says that it's not worth, no amount of financial success or professional success is worth long-term avoidable chronic pain. So clearly there's something going on with Byron Jones. So to just give you guys a quick rundown of Byron Jones actually made headlines at the combine during his process. He set the world record for the broad jump at the combine. Then in 2018, signed a 5-year, $82 million contract with the Dolphins. Missed last season with an Achilles tendon injury. Now he's claiming that he can't run or jump. So, injuries are a very tough part of the game, and they take a toll both mentally and physically on a lot of players. And I'm not a doctor. I'm in no medical field. I have no position and no right to claim that the NFL doctors have done well or if they've done bad. But I'm more pointing out the fact that, multiple players, as Michael Thomas agreed with Byron Jones this week, multiple players have kind of come out and said the same thing. So I think that the best solution here is for the Players Association, who their main goal is to look out for the players, just to look into these events and just to see what happened. We obviously had examples of both great NFL doctor activity and poor NFL doctor activity this past season. Great being the saving of life of DeMar Hamlin, and the poor being of the way that they handled the Tua concussion situation. So I think it's just looking into kind of similar with the Tua situation. They looked into it. They made a new rule. They have new practices. They fired that one guy. Maybe that's what they do with the doctor who treated Byron Jones. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not calling for his job or anything. I'm just saying that I think the Players Association should step in and look into these claims made by Michael Thomas and by Byron Jones and see if there's any points of action that they could take to avoid this in the future. But I just want to bring it up and just say that I hope that Byron Jones is better. I hope that he heals up. I know he didn't officially announce I'm guessing he's retiring, but he didn't officially announce it, so I don't know necessarily. But yeah, hoping for the best for Byron Jones, and hope that he's good with all of his injuries and stuff. Last thing I want to touch on for this podcast episode, just a quick little note. I think something really cool has happened this week. It is that one anonymous team, has submitted a claim to the NFL's competition committee to make roughing the passer reviewable. I love this call. I would love that. I think nothing is worse than having a momentous play go against your team on a shitty roughing the passer call and then it being called back. That's just the worst. And it's happened time and time again. So I think roughing the passer should be reviewable. The things that they should look for are, forcible contact to the head or neck. Do you take 2 steps after the quarterback released the ball? Do you maybe hip toss the quarterback or suplex him? Those things are yes, roughing the passer, but a lot of these roughing the passer calls, it's just insane the way that they're calling them. So would love for that to be reviewable and to be able to be changed. But that is going to go ahead and wrap it up for this episode, guys. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss future episodes. If you guys have been liking what you see, make sure to leave a like on this video and comment your opinions down below. I said it more than once, but I have absolutely been loving reading all you guys' comments. You guys are very smart. You guys are offering some great insights, things that I've never even thought of, that I've now changed the way that I think about certain things. So I very much appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I will see you guys on Wednesday for the next podcast episode. Have a good one, all right?